Okay, so in this video, we're going to have a look at team performance, and we're going to talk about the focus factor. So when you go through the sprint, the sprint plan stories get added to the sprint backlog. So you would then agree on how many story points that the team can complete during that sprint. And with that, you start adding the amount of story points which equals to the amount of effort that the team will put in to complete these stories. So during the sprint, the team will then start working on these tasks. So that means you no longer focus on the product backlog. Now you have the sprint backlog. The sprint backlog is what you will work on as a team during that sprint. Now, on a daily basis, the team will go through the daily stand-up, and the team members will agree on which are the stories that they work on, and then they will move them to the doing column. Now, if they are currently working on a story, then the story stays in the doing column, and once they complete a story, it can be during the sprint or at the end of the sprint, then the stories they move to the done column. Now when the stories they arrive in the done column and the sprint has completed, the team will then demonstrate the completion of these stories. Now remember that there is a definition of done, and when the stories they are done, that means they're ready for demo and they have a set of features that will be useful for the users or the customer, and they do not crash. So at the end of the sprint, the team will have finished these sets of stories, and the sum of the stories, of the story points, they actually form the velocity. Now in this particular example, we have two stories that are completed, so one with 3 story points and one with 10 story points. So the total velocity is 13. Now for the focus factor, this is a constant which indicate the performance of the team. So how well are they working together, and this can actually be calculated based on the amount of time that they spend working together on the stories and the number of story points that they complete. So what they have to do first is to agree on how many man days that they are available. So in this particular example, the sprint is 5 days. So the maximum number of man days would be 5. So we can see that there are 3 team members that have maximum man days, 5 days, and then 2 have less. Now the reason could be that they have a holiday, or they have to see the doctor, or they're sick, or something can interfere in some employees' workday that they may not be available 100%. Now let's say from the previous sprint that we had the 13 points, and we had a total of 25 man days from the previous sprint. We can then calculate the focus factor by dividing the total number of man days which was the previous sprint's total number of man days that the team was available, up in the actual velocity. So the actual velocity was the story points that was completed in the done column, remember? So that's 13 points. So we then have 13 divided with 25 is 0.52. The next sprint total number of available days are 22. So we can now calculate the estimated velocity based on the number of days that the team are available to work together, and then we multiply that with the focus factor from the previous sprint. So that gives us 11.4, so that's actually a velocity of 11 points. So the team can move in a total of 11 points into the sprint backlog from the product backlog. The focus factor shows the team's performance, and it can be used when the team start on a new project, then calculate the estimated velocity as we just saw in the previous example. And to calculate the focus factor, you'd take the actual velocity, which is the number of points that the team actually completed. You divide up in that the total number of man days that they worked on those stories. Now the reason why we say actually velocity is that the team might have chosen more points to put into the sprint backlog, but some of the points were not completed, so they stay behind. Those points will then, or those stories will then be in the doing column still, because the story is not completed. Estimated velocity is then the focus factor multiplied with the committed number of man days that the team planned to work on the following sprint.